This boy's hair is about to become shorter. That is a quick change. Changes happen to Earth too. Some of those changes are quick, and some are very slow. What can cause a slow change to Earth? Wind and water can cause slow changes when part of Earth is exposed to water or wind for a long time. What do you think of when you hear a long time? We usually talk about time using seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, and years. But when talking about Earth, we often hear millions of years to describe time. Let's break that down. Each of your birthdays is 12 months, or 1 year apart. 1,000,000 years is 1,000 birthdays times 1,000 birthdays. Some slow changes take millions of years. Let's look at how this happens. Wind and water change Earth through weathering and erosion. Weathering is when wind or water reshape Earth by breaking apart rocks. Erosion happens when small bits of rock or soil are moved from one place to another. Professional geologists are able to tell which landforms are formed by wind and which are created by water because they often have very different shapes. How does water weather rock? Flowing water carries sand and pebbles. The sand and pebbles hit the rock and cause it to break. Water also carries away pieces of broken rock. Do you remember what this process is called? Erosion. The water weathering process can break off tiny pieces of rock until the rocks look smooth, like this. Wind can also weather rock. This happens when wind carries grains of sand or other material. The rough sand removes tiny bits of rock. This wind weathering process can create landforms such as these. Sand dunes are an example of erosion caused by wind. These sand dunes in Death Valley National Park began forming over 12,000 years ago. Wind carried sand from one place and deposited it in another place, creating these waves of sand. At least 5 million years ago, weathering and erosion by water began carving out the Grand Canyon. Sand and pebbles carried by water broke off tiny pieces of rock. Erosion occurred when those broken rocks flowed down the river. This canyon was made by sand, pebbles, water, and lots of time. The water of the Colorado River continues to carry away little bits of rock today, but this change is so slow that it would take many years to see a change. Waterfalls are also created by water, weathering, and erosion. This is water flowing over the edge of a rock cliff at Niagara Falls. The flowing water falls over 170 feet into the plunge pool below the cliff. But these falls were not always so tall. Over 12,000 years ago, the river began weathering and eroding the rock. An area of softer rock eroded faster than the harder rock, creating a step. The step became taller. The force of falling water hitting rock continued to weather the rock at the bottom of the falls, and a pool formed. Over 12,000 years, the water weathered and eroded the rock to create Niagara Falls. Let's look at more examples of weathering and erosion. This is an example of wind eroding sandstone. Notice the smooth surface? When wind reshapes rock, it creates a smooth surface. The long steps and grooves in this sandstone were also created slowly by wind weathering. What do you think caused this formation? What about this one? Here's a few more weathering and erosion examples. Can you tell if it was wind or water that created them?